Welcome back here, everybody. And now that we, in the last lesson, had gone ahead and set up all the texture information for our fish, we're ready now to go ahead and add a auto swim feature here. This way we can give animators the ease of animating it sort of automatically, but it's going to be more a manual automation rather than being run through expression. Okay, so what we want to go ahead and do here is just make sure that we select our global master control, and we're going to be adding an attribute here, but first thing that I want to go ahead and do is be able to deform the body. And to set up the auto swim, we're just simply going to use a deformer inside of Maya, which is going to be the sign node here. So we'll select our mesh, select our sign node, and you can see that this brings in a NURBS curve. And this is how our mesh is going to deform. Okay, so we don't want our mesh deforming vertically. We want it to deform horizontally. Okay, so we need to rotate this sign deformer here 90 degrees in the x-axis. So we'll just set this 90. Okay, and if we take a look here at some of the attributes, you can always set the how much it'll envelop the skin, how much amplitude it'll have. So let's go ahead and say maybe 1. That's fairly heavy. We might actually have to shrink that down a little bit here. The wavelength, as you can see here, where you can have sort of a ripple effect. Okay. The offset here is going to be the actual swimming of that sign node. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and make sure that we set that back to 0. The drop off here, we're going to have it 1. Okay. But the problem here with that sign node is I don't want that sign node to be deforming the head, so I definitely have to move this back. And I want to put it, if I can actually zoom in here and actually move this back at the same time, I want to have it a little bit behind the corner of the eye, so that we're going to have the ability to deform the face whenever we rig the face here. But I don't want that sign node to be affecting any portion of, even say, you know, from this NURBS curve and forward. I want it to really be deforming somewhere in between, say like here and back. Okay, so we just need to make sure that we push this back enough. And you can sort of see where that ripple effect will start. So let's just check to make sure that that works. Okay, so that's far enough back. Okay. The deformation right now, I'm not really concerned with. I just want to make sure that I get that placed properly. Okay. So what we can do now is I want to go ahead and take and add the attribute to this master controller, so that people can just simply select the master controller and then run it from here. Okay, so we'll just come up here to modify, add attributes, and we're just going to simply make this an enumerated value real quick, and we'll call this the clownfish _ auto swim, and we're just going to rename this green here to controls. The blue here, we'll just simply highlight it, delete it off, and we're going to make this keyable. We'll go ahead and add that, so you can see here where it gets added in the channel box here. I'm going to go ahead and select the clownfish auto swim. I'm going to lock it. This way I can add those controls underneath of it, and this is going to be the highlighter so that people understand that the controls here are underneath, and this is going to be unselectable. And now we're just going to go ahead and add a float controller here. And doing this one by one is going to get a little bit time consuming, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to add all of our attributes in one fell swoop. Okay, so I'm just going to select my DG add adders, which was downloaded from creativecrash.com, and I'm going to go ahead and add a float here. I'm going to add 5 of them at once. Go ahead and hit add. So there I have the ability to go ahead and add 5 different attributes. Okay, and I just need to make sure that I name them the same way that our sign node here is set up. Instead, we'll take the offset here and we're going to move this one forward. Okay, just remember that. So we're going to call this, the first one, the clownfish swimming. It's not going to be the offset. We're going to rename it so that it's going to be swimming, and I don't want that 5 in there. Okay, and then we'll take and put the clownfish designation here for the next one, and then we'll take clownfish envelope, clownfish amplitude. We'll take the clownfish wave length, and then the clownfish drop off. We're going to set the default here to 0. We're going to leave the minimum 0. The maximum here is going to be 1. So we'll go ahead and reselect our global master control. Go ahead and add those. So there you can see they get added in the channel blocks. We can go ahead and close this window. Okay. We'll select our sign node. We'll come up here to Window, General Editors, Connection Editor. We'll go ahead and make sure that we select our sign node here in the Inputs tab. Reload that in the right. And we'll go ahead and select our Global Master Control. Reload that in the left. We're going to take the swimming node and attach that to the offset. We're going to take the envelope, amplitude, wavelength, drop off. Okay, so now with our global master control selected, let's go ahead here and test these attributes to make sure that they work. So I'll just select them all. Go ahead and set 1. The amplitude normally would be 0.07. Our wavelength can be 1, and the drop off fine. So let's go ahead and run our swimming node to see if this works. Actually, yes it does. I just need to edit the attribute there. So instead of having 1, I'm going to go ahead and set this out to something like 1,000. So you have a bunch of different frames to go ahead and key that where it's going to be really easy to set up the auto swim. And to do that, we can just simply come up here to Modify, Edit Attribute, and we're going to edit the attribute of the swimming. And the maximum here isn't going to be 1. We're going to go ahead and run this out to 1,000. And you'll notice here that I'm not setting a negative 1,000, and that's because I don't want it to be reverse affecting whenever somebody's animating it. So with that set, we'll just simply hit close, select our swimming node, and there you can see where the auto swim has been set up. And you can always change the amplitude and the wavelength as you see fit to make it really easy to go ahead and set up an auto swimming feature for the fish. Okay, we'll just go ahead here and set all those back to 0. And that's it for our auto swim. And in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and start rigging our face. So come on back and we'll go ahead and keep working.